My name is Marcus Chun, and I've been hauling freight across the Southwest for 12 years. What happened on Highway 95 in Nevada last December still makes my hands shake when I grip the wheel at night. It was 4 a.m., that dead hour when the world feels abandoned. I was pushing through the desert darkness, running late on a medical supply delivery to Reno. My headlights were weak, casting barely enough glow to see the yellow lines. The desert stretched endless and black in every direction. That's when I saw it, a dark shape blocking the road ahead. As I got closer, my stomach dropped. A burgundy Ford Fusion sat perfectly centered on the highway, hazard lights blinking rhythmically in the suffocating silence. But what made my blood run cold was the driver's door. It hung wide open, swaying slightly in the desert wind. I slammed the brakes. The semi screeched, stopping maybe 2 feet from the car's bumper. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stared at the empty vehicle. The interior light was on, illuminating pristine leather seats. Nobody inside, nobody anywhere. I'm not easily scared. I've handled bar fights and worse. But this felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet. Not even the usual desert sounds. No coyotes, no wind, just that rhythmic click, click, click of the hazard lights. I reversed the semi and pulled to the shoulder, telling myself someone just needed help. Maybe a breakdown, maybe a medical emergency. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the night. The temperature had dropped and my breath came out in visible puffs. The car looked brand new. Keys dangled from the ignition, engine cold. I checked the back seat, under the seats, everywhere. Nothing. Just emptiness and that eerie perfection, like the car had been staged. Then I noticed the trunk. The latch wasn't quite closed. Something primal in my gut screamed at me to leave. But curiosity is a dangerous thing in the desert. I pulled the keys from the ignition and walked to the back of the car, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The trunk lock clicked open with a sound that seemed to echo across the entire desert. I lifted the lid slowly, my flashlight revealing 3 large, dark garbage bags. They were tied with rope, squeezed together to fit. The bags had a strange, organic shape to them, bulging in places that made my stomach turn. One of the bags had a wet patch seeping through the black plastic. Dark liquid, almost black in my flashlight beam. My mind raced with possibilities I didn't want to consider. I reached toward the nearest bag, my fingers inches away from the damp surface. A gunshot cracked through the night. The sound was deafening, echoing off the empty highway. I jerked back so violently, I slammed my head against the trunk lid. Stars exploded in my vision, but adrenaline kicked in instantly. I didn't think. I didn't look. I just ran. My boots pounded against asphalt as I sprinted toward my truck. Behind me, a voice rough and desperate shouted, "Wait! Stop! You don't understand." I didn't care about understanding. I scrambled into my cab, hands shaking so badly I dropped the keys twice. The engine sputtered, died, sputtered again. Come on, come on. I slammed the steering wheel. In my side mirror, I saw him clearly now. A short, stocky man with wild red hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. He wore filthy overalls and mud-caked boots. In his left hand, a small camping shovel. In his right, an old hunting rifle barrel still smoking. Our eyes met through the mirror for one frozen second. His expression wasn't angry or crazed. It was terrified, desperate, like he needed me to stay more than I needed to run. He dropped the shovel and started waving both arms frantically, mouth moving, forming words I couldn't hear over my pounding heart. The rifle dangled forgotten in his grip. The engine roared to life. I threw the semi into gear and floored it, tires screaming against asphalt. In the mirror, the man was sprinting after me, still waving, still shouting something I couldn't make out. Then he stopped, turned, and ran back to the Fusion. I pushed the truck faster than safety allowed, my knuckles white on the wheel. The desert darkness pressed in from all sides, making every shadow seem alive. My phone showed no signal. Of course, middle of nowhere, Nevada. 5 minutes passed. My breathing started to slow. Maybe I'd lost him. Maybe he'd given up. That's when the headlights appeared in my mirror. They came fast, closing the distance with terrifying speed. The Fusion's engine screamed as it ate up the highway between us. My hands started shaking again. The horn blared behind me, long and desperate. He pulled alongside my trailer, so close I could hear his tires on the asphalt. Then he swerved in front of me and hit his brakes. I yanked the wheel right, barely avoiding a collision. The trailer fishtailed, threatening to jackknife. For a moment, I thought I'd lose control completely. The Fusion kept pace with me, weaving back and forth across my lane, forcing me slower and slower. Every time I tried to accelerate past him, he cut me off again. The horn never stopped blaring. Through his rear window, I could see his silhouette. One hand on the wheel, the other gesturing wildly. He kept pointing at something, jabbing his finger toward the darkness behind us. Then I saw them. In my mirror, two more vehicles. A black pickup truck and a white panel van, both running without headlights. They were gaining fast, closing in like predators. The red-haired man wasn't chasing me. He was trying to save me. The realization hit me like ice water. The bags in the trunk, the desperate way he'd chased me, the terror in his eyes. He'd been trying to warn me, not hurt me. Flashing blue and red lights appeared ahead, cutting through the darkness like a miracle. A highway patrol cruiser screamed toward us, sirens wailing. The Fusion swerved hard right, disappearing into the desert scrub. The black pickup and white van behind me immediately killed their approach, dropping back and peeling off onto a dirt road that appeared out of nowhere. I pulled over, my entire body shaking. The officer approached cautiously, hand near his weapon. I spilled everything, words tumbling over each other. The abandoned car, the bags, the gunshot, the chase, the vehicles pursuing us both. "Stay here," he commanded, calling for backup. 3 more units arrived within minutes. They found the Fusion abandoned 2 miles into the desert, driver's door open again, engine still running. The trunk was empty. No bags, no rope, no evidence. But in the dirt nearby, they found fresh tire tracks, multiple vehicles, and something else, a trail of disturbed earth leading toward the mountains. Recently dug, recently filled. The officer who'd stopped me pulled me aside later. "We're bringing in cadaver dogs," he said quietly. "This area, we've had reports. People who stop to help, people who disappear." The man with red hair, I asked, "We're looking for him." As a witness, not a suspect. He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You ran from the one person trying to protect you, toward the ones who've been waiting for someone like you to stop. I never found out what was in those bags. Never learned the red-haired man's name. But sometimes late at night, I think about that frozen moment when our eyes met in my mirror. He'd looked terrified because he knew what was coming behind me. And he'd risked everything to make me run, even when I wouldn't listen, even when I ran from him instead of with him." The official report listed it as suspicious activity, no arrests made. But 3 weeks later, they found them, for bodies in shallow graves scattered across that desert. All truck drivers, all men who'd stopped to help someone in need. I still drive that route. But now when I see a car on the shoulder, door open, I don't stop. I call in and keep rolling. Because the desert keeps its secrets, and sometimes the person who looks like a threat is the only thing standing between you and something far worse. That night, I learned the hardest lesson of my life. In the darkness, trust is a luxury you can't afford. And sometimes the devil you run from is an angel in disguise. My name is Vincent Delacroix, and I've been running the northern routes for 28 years. In that time, I've seen crashes, storms, and things I still can't explain. But nothing prepared me for what happened on Highway 85 in North Dakota last October. It was 1 a.m., temperature hovering just above freezing. I was exhausted, running on maybe 4 hours of sleep across 2 days. The highway stretched empty in both directions, just flat darkness and distant farmhouses with lights that looked like dying stars. I'd been fighting to keep my eyes open for the last hour. My head kept drooping, and I'd jolt awake every time the truck drifted toward the shoulder. I needed to stop, just an hour's rest, enough to clear my head. That's when I saw it, a purple dress lying in the middle of the road. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. Fatigue does that sometimes, makes you see things that aren't there. But as my headlights got closer, the dress became more real. Silk or satin, expensive looking, spread across the yellow center line like someone had laid it there deliberately. I slowed down, confused. What the hell was a dress doing in the middle of nowhere? I drove past it slowly, checking my mirrors. Still there, definitely real. 200 yards ahead, another item. A pair of women's heels, placed neatly side by side on the white line. My confusion deepened into something darker. This wasn't random. Someone had placed these items here. But why? Another 100 yards, a leather jacket, then children's shoes, tiny sneakers that couldn't belong to anyone older than 6 or 7. My stomach twisted. The exhaustion fog lifted instantly, replaced by adrenaline-sharp focus. More items appeared. A child's backpack, a stuffed animal, torn and muddy, clothes scattered like breadcrumbs, leading deeper into the darkness. Then I heard it. Carried on the wind, faint but unmistakable. A child screamed. White blood turned to ice. The scream came again, piercing and desperate, from somewhere off the right side of the road. Every parental instinct, every shred of human decency demanded I stop. A child was in trouble. A child needed help. I slammed the brakes. The truck shuddered to a stop, air brakes hissing. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. Think, Vincent. Think. Something was wrong about this. The clothing trail, the perfectly placed items, the scream at just the right moment when I'd see all the evidence. It felt orchestrated, planned. The scream came a third time, identical to the first two. Same pitch, same duration, same desperation. Two identical. I grabbed my spotlight and aimed it into the trees where the sound originated. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating bare trunks and underbrush. And there, maybe 30 yards into the woods, I saw them. For figures standing in a loose circle. One held a large speaker above his head. Another had what looked like a metal pipe. The other two carried nothing visible, but something about their posture suggested weapons. They didn't run when my spotlight hit them. They froze like deer, faces masked by shadows and hoods. For a long moment, we existed in that frozen tableau, predator and prey, both assessing, both calculating. Then the fourth scream erupted from the speaker. Now that I could see the source, it sounded mechanical, tinny. A recording. They've been playing it on loop, trying to lure me out of my truck and into the woods where 4 armed men waited in the darkness. My hands started shaking, but this time from rage instead of fear. How many had they caught with this trick? How many desperate, tired drivers had heard a child screaming and run toward the sound? How many never drove away? I should have called the police. Should have driven to the nearest town and reported it. That's what a smart person would do. But I was tired and angry and maybe not thinking clearly. I kept my spotlight trained on them and grabbed my CB radio. This is Delacroix on Highway 85, mile marker 47. About armed subjects in the woods attempting to lure drivers off the road. Requesting immediate police response. Static answered me. I tried again. Nothing. No response, no acknowledgement. The CB was dead, or they blocked it somehow. That's when I saw movement in my passenger mirror. A fifth figure emerging from the ditch on the left side of the road. He carried a crowbar and was moving toward my cab with purpose. They've been on both sides, waiting for me to focus on the woods while they approached from behind. I threw the truck into gear, but the fifth man was already at my passenger door, yanking the handle. Locked, thank God. He raised the crowbar, aiming for the window. I gunned the engine. The truck lurched forward and the man stumbled back. But he didn't give up. He ran alongside my cab, matching my speed for 20, 30 yards, that crowbar raised high. Then I heard the impact. Something hit the side of my trailer, a loud metallic bang. In the mirror, I saw the 2 men from the woods had run to the road and thrown something. Rocks, maybe, or worse. My passenger window shattered. Glass exploded across the cab. Cold October air rushed in. The man with the crowbar was still running beside me, now reaching through the broken window, fingers grasping. I swerved hard left. The truck's weight shifted, trailer swaying dangerously. The man fell away, tumbling into the ditch. In the mirror, I saw him get up immediately, unharmed but furious, screaming words I couldn't hear. The others had reached the road now, standing in a line across both lanes. One raised something I couldn't identify, dark and bulky. The speaker guy lifted his device again. This time, the sound that came out wasn't a child's scream. It was a siren, loud and authentic, designed to make me stop. I didn't stop. I aimed the truck straight at them, laid on the horn, and kept accelerating. At the last possible second, they scattered, diving to the shoulders as 40 tons of steel and cargo roared past. One of them threw something else. My driver's side mirror exploded. More objects hit the trailer, denting the aluminum skin. But I was through them now, building speed, putting distance between us and them. I drove for 15 minutes at dangerous speeds before I saw real lights ahead. A gas station, bright and populated. I pulled in hard, parking across 3 spaces, and ran inside. The clerk took one look at my face and reached for the phone. Police arrived within 10 minutes. Highway patrol, local sheriff, even a state detective. I told them everything. The clothing trail, the recorded scream, the ambush, the 5 men. They found the clothing within an hour. All of it staged exactly as I described. But the men were gone. No tracks in the woods, no evidence beyond the items they'd left behind. The detective pulled me aside after my statement. "You're the 3rd driver to report this area in 6 months, he said quietly. "We've been investigating. This is organized, not random." The others who reported it, I asked, "They got away too?" His silence told me everything. "You're the first," he finally said. "The first to escape. They never caught the men. Never found evidence of who they were or what they did to the drivers who stopped. But 3 months later, they found something else. A cluster of shallow graves in those same woods, about half a mile from where I'd stopped. 7 bodies, all male, all truck drivers, all with injuries suggesting prolonged torture before death. The clothing trail, the screams, the ambush, it was all rehearsed. Perfected. They've been doing this for years. I still drive Highway 85, but now I carry a loaded .45 under my seat, and I never, ever stop for anything in the middle of the night. Not clothing, not screams, not sirens. Because the real horror isn't what you see on the road. It's what's waiting in the darkness just beyond your headlights, patient and practiced, knowing that eventually someone will stop. And sometimes, in my nightmares, I see those 7 drivers who did. My name is Tyler Morrison. I've only been trucking for 8 months, which means I'm still learning which instincts to trust and which fears to ignore. What happened on Interstate 70 in rural Ohio taught me that sometimes fear is the only thing keeping you alive. It was 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday, dead middle of a 12-hour haul from Pittsburgh to Indianapolis. The highway was empty, just me and the broken white lines disappearing under my wheels. My eyelids felt like sandpaper. I'd burned through my last Red Bull 3 hours ago. That's when I saw the sign. Rest stop 2 miles. I almost ignored it, almost kept driving. But exhaustion makes you sloppy, and sloppy gets you killed on these roads. I took the exit. The place looked wrong immediately. The main building was dark, windows covered with plywood. Weeds pushed through cracks in the parking lot. A single streetlight flickered near what used to be gas pumps, now just concrete islands with rusty bolts where the equipment had been removed. But there was a smaller building off to the side. Convenience store, the faded sign read. A dim light glowed through the grimy windows. The door hung slightly open. I parked, killed the engine, and stepped out into the humid night air. Crickets chirped in the overgrown grass. The smell of decay and old gasoline hung thick. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I needed caffeine. Just a quick in and out. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside was worse than outside. Empty shelves lined the walls, covered in dust and cobwebs. The floor was littered with trash, crushed soda cans, cigarette butts, torn lottery tickets. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed and flickered, creating strobing shadows. "Hello." My voice echoed in the emptiness. No response. I was about to leave when I noticed something. A faint blue glow coming from a back room. The door was cracked open just enough to see through. Curiosity pulled me forward. I know, stupid. Horror movies taught us better. But fatigue makes you do irrational things. And part of me still hoped I'd find a working vending machine, maybe some bottled water left behind. I pushed the back room door open slowly. It creaked on rusty hinges, the sound echoing through the empty store. The blue glow came from a single refrigerator standing against the far wall, plugged in and humming softly. Everything else in the room had been stripped bare. No shelves, no boxes, just stained concrete floor and that lone refrigerator casting its cold light. Hope flickered in my chest. I crossed the room and grabbed the handle. The door opened with a soft hiss of released air. Cold vapor rolled out, washing over my face. Empty, completely empty. Not even the shelves remained. Just a hollow interior, light bulb glowing uselessly. Damn it, I slammed the door shut, frustration overriding caution. The sound echoed through the building. That's when I heard it. A metallic scraping sound from the front of the store, like something heavy being dragged across concrete. My blood went cold. I froze, listening. Silence. Then another sound. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving through the main room. I hadn't heard anyone enter. The building had been empty when I came in. I was sure of it. The footsteps stopped. I could hear breathing now, raspy and wet, coming from just beyond the door I'd left open. Someone was standing right there on the other side, waiting. My heart hammered against my ribs. The only exit from this back room was through that door, past whoever or whatever was waiting. I looked around desperately for another way out. Nothing. No windows. No other doors. Just concrete walls and that humming refrigerator. The door started to swing open slowly, hinges creaking. A shadow stretched across the floor, growing longer. I didn't wait to see what cast that shadow. I grabbed the only thing within reach, a metal shelf bracket on the floor, and raised it like a weapon. My hand shook, but I kept my eyes locked on that slowly opening door. A figure stepped into the doorway. Backlit by the flickering fluorescence, I couldn't make out features. Just a tall, thin silhouette that didn't move, didn't speak. Just stood there, blocking my only exit. I don't want trouble, I managed my voice cracking. Just let me leave. The figure tilted its head, studying me. Then it stepped aside, moving back into the shadows of the main room. An invitation? A trap? I didn't have a choice. I moved forward, keeping the metal bracket raised, and edged past the doorway. The main room was darker than before. The fluorescent lights had stopped flickering, now casting a steady, dim glow that somehow made everything worse. That's when I saw them. 3 more figures standing motionless between me and the exit. They'd appeared without a sound, without footsteps. They just stood there, silent sentinels blocking my path to freedom. The one closest to me wore a dirty mechanic's jumpsuit. The next, a stained hoodie pulled low over their face. The third, I couldn't make out clearly, just a shape that seemed wrong somehow, proportions slightly off. Please. My voice barely worked. I just want to leave. None of them responded. None of them moved. They just waited, patient as statues, watching me with eyes I couldn't see but could feel burning into my skin. I made a choice. The only choice I had. I ran. I charged straight at the gap between 2 of the figures, the bracket still clutched in my hand. They moved then, faster than humans should move, reaching for me. Fingers brushed my jacket, grabbed at my arm. I swung the bracket wildly, felt it connect with something solid. A grunt of pain, surprisingly human. Then I was past them, my boots pounding across the floor toward the exit. The door was closed. I hadn't closed it. Someone had shut it while I was in the back room. Behind me, I could hear them coming. Not running, just walking with that same deliberate pace. Like they knew I had nowhere to go. Like this was a game they played before. I hit the door with my shoulder, expecting it to be locked. It swung open easily, and I tumbled out into the humid night air. I didn't stop. I sprinted across the cracked parking lot toward my truck, fumbling for my keys. My hand shook so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. Behind me, the store door hung open, but I couldn't see if anyone had followed. I didn't wait to find out. The engine roared to life. I threw the truck into gear and floored it, tires screaming. In my rearview mirror, I saw them emerge from the store. For figures standing in a line, watching me go. Not chasing, just watching. Like they'd expected this. like they were satisfied. I drove for 3 hours straight, didn't stop until I reached a bright, busy truck stop packed with other rigs and people. Real people. I sat in my cab shaking, too terrified to close my eyes. I reported it to the state police, described the location, the abandoned store, the figures. They said they'd check it out. 2 days later, they call me back. "We found the location," the officer said. "That store's been condemned for 5 years. Boarded up, no power running. And sir, there's no refrigerator in the back room. Building's been completely gutted. I still see that blue glow sometimes when I close my eyes. Still hear those footsteps. And I know, deep in my bones, that whatever was waiting in that store wasn't human. And it's still there, waiting for the next driver desperate enough to stop."